The shooting of Renee Good at the hands of ICE agents. The radicalization of regular American people. Who's to really blame for this tragedy? In today's discussion, I want to talk about the shooting of Renee Good and media manipulation. And not only also talk about the events that took place that afternoon, but also speak about how the media's role in people, for lack of a better term, going bonkers at federal law enforcement. We all seen the videos. We all seen what happened that afternoon. And regardless of what's out there, people are going to pick a side. It is perfectly clear that the ICE officer was in the path of the vehicle and he was actually struck. You can see it on the second angle. There's an angle from behind the vehicle that captures the side. And then there's another angle that shows clearly the officer being struck and him drawing his weapon. And one thing people got to understand, but they won't. This is just truthfully partisan. It's just whatever side you're on, that's what you're going to believe. You're not going to believe the truth. You're not going to be objective. We're past that in this country. It is clear. The man, first of all, he had like a split second to make a decision. So there's no way anybody can say, well, he meant to kill her, or he wanted to kill her, or he wanted to shoot her. He sees a vehicle coming at him in the video that he showed himself, his own video. And he took aim and fired. This is all in a manner of like probably 10 seconds. He has to make all these decisions and process all this information in his mind. But you have the communist media and all these commentators and all these people making videos, and nobody's taking that viewpoint into concern. Not into concern, I beg your pardon. They're not accounting for that. How fast he has to process all that information. A vehicle coming at you, draw your weapon, take deadly force. Nobody seems to even want to tackle that. But as I said, we're past the point of trying to convince people. I wish that my words could sway people in a different direction. But after seeing what has transpired over the last couple of days, I doubt that that'll happen. There's 3 major videos that are showing the officer's perspective, the one that shows him being struck, and then the one from the side that looks like she was just trying to elude law enforcement. First and foremost, we got to tackle the elephant in the room. We are all, as human beings, responsible for our actions. The fact that she took matters into her hands and show up and disrupt ICE, although CNN will tell you that there's no record of her disturbing ICE throughout the day. Okay? First and foremost, I can go out on the street right now and I do not know how to find an ICE agent or an ICE raid. I don't have this information. I can drive around and look. Maybe it's not happening in my area. People might say, oh, it's not happening in your area, so you don't know. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But the fact that you are looking for federal law enforcement and then you impede their operations, and this is essentially, I'm saying something that is understood by most human beings. This isn't something radical. This isn't something crazy. It's like me showing up at a traffic stop and impede the officer in his traffic stop and trying to run him over. But the metaphors, we can go on all day about metaphors and trying to convince people. But the fact of the matter is, what radicalized this woman? What got this woman to do these things? And it's been widely reported by now. Like, this has been a few days since all this came out. Unless you've been living under a rock, you should have some idea, or if you heard of the case, you have some knowledge of the situation. And this woman got involved with a group called Minnesota Ice Watch, a group that she found through her kids' school. Why would a communist paramilitary group would be involved in a school is part of a bigger story. And I got to say this up front. I know whoever's listening to me has got to be conservative leaning. The algorithm's not going to push us to a far left communist. For the average person who's not well versed and involved in politics, the time to wake up is now. We are in the midst or in the beginning of a communist revolution in America. And when you bring up communists, people tend to think Ronald Reagan in the 80s, the Berlin Wall. No, we're talking about 2026 America. Not the Berlin Wall, not Ronald Reagan, not some old footage. Today, America. So she gets involved with this group, and it begins for her. It's been widely reported that her wife or her girlfriend, the woman she was involved with, there's no record of her being married to this woman, radicalized her and got her involved in this sort of politics and this sort of business. Because if you conveniently see how the media props up her character prior to her dying, you don't see any other pictures, and I'll share this on the screen with you. You don't see any other pictures of the shaved head, you don't see any of that. The radicalizing part, you don't see it. Now they want to prop her up as a very normal woman with long hair and the nonsense, that the buffoonery the media engages in. And when you Google the ICE shooting, all you're going to see is the angle that doesn't show the officer getting struck. I'm talking about a full page of it. I'm sharing it with you on the screen. So media manipulation has a lot to do, and it's kind of what steers people in this direction towards these far left communists. If you are trying to find out information about this case and draw your own conclusions, and you go to the regular media, you're going to end up being triggered. You're going to think they murder a poor woman in cold blood for her protesting. Because even the way they frame things up is to gaslight you. But this is something that, if you don't already know, you should know. This is something that has been circulating for the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years at this point, from 2020 on out. Because the end goal is communism. And if you haven't awakened to that fact, you're either kidding yourself or you just want to ignore it and hope things change. But with communists, things never change. So she gets involved with this group and she starts getting active in political communist engagement. And that's what takes her to this day, to that day, and the events that took place. What rational person, and the media has said this, she was a mother of 3. What person, mother of 3, knowing that you have 3 lives that depend on you? I think they said the youngest of 6 will show up and impede ICE agents. Not only impede their work, but they gave her, and that's another thing that has not been mentioned by the media whatsoever. They gave her lawful commands to step out of the vehicle. When a law enforcement officer tells you, get out of the vehicle, that's a lawful command they're giving you. That's not, they're asking, maybe you should do it. It's a lawful command. Every single time you see these shootings, it's the same thing. People don't comply. They start doing wild, erratic things. You have to understand these people are not superheroes that are bulletproof. They don't want to catch a bullet and go home in a box. Every single human being should understand this. But the media has created, and I'm not trying to take responsibility away from her actions and what she did that day that caused deadly force to be used on her. That's not what I'm doing. But the media has created this landscape of it's okay as long as you're leaning left to do whatever it takes and whatever you want. And that's when I say it's a communist revolution upon us. The same garbage they're saying today is the same garbage Fidel Castro told Herbert Matthews of the New York Times at the Sierra Maestra Mountains in 1959. It's the same garbage. Social justice, well-planned economy, same garbage that has these people worked up in a frenzy. But let's get to the topic, why she was even there in the first place. ICE Watch, that communist group, is supposed to be watching out for ICE enforcing on illegal immigration. And illegal immigration has become a hot topic for the communists. Most sensible people will agree that you're in this. If you're in this country illegally, you should be removed and sent back to your home country. Most people in this country would agree with you, unless if you're a descendant of an illegal immigrant and it affects you directly. Of course, you're going to be completely against it. But most people agree that people need to be removed, that we have masses of people that we don't even know who they are roaming the country that need to be removed. That change the demographics and change the voting patterns on the country, essentially turns the country into something that it was never designed to be. We all understand that. But to the communists, the revolution is all that matters. This woman just became a martyr. She became a martyr for the revolution, and that's all that matters to them. The fact that her kids will be without a mother, her family suffering, that doesn't matter to them. She was a key pawn to the revolution. And you know why I'm making this point? There was an ICE shooting in Oregon a day after that. You haven't seen that wide coverage like that. Obviously, the person wasn't shot. It wasn't killed, rather. Not sure. They were shot, but they weren't killed. And you don't see the same reaction because they can't use it. The guy was a criminal, illegal alien, so they weren't forced to. He wasn't a U.S. citizen. They can't use this for the good of the revolution. If you fail to grasp this, then you don't understand what's happening. And the thing about the communists, they're not going to stop. And for the life of me, I do not know why the right doesn't have that unified labeling of these individuals. Everybody says leftists, liberals, they are communists hell-bent on turning America into a communist hellhole. Think about this. If you hold any sort of conservative views, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. You are attacked. It doesn't matter. So if you think, and I'm speaking to the minorities who are conservative leaning, that for the most part tend to be quiet about how they feel because they're afraid of being labeled sellouts and coconuts and all these goofy labels that they put on you. Just like whites are also afraid of being called racists. The reality is that if you don't hold any of their conservative, if you hold any conservative views, you are hated by the left, by these communists that are willing, that want to take over America, that want AOC installed and drive us towards communism. The Mondamis of the world. They don't care about immigrants. Ask them, what policy do you want passed to help illegal immigrants by Congress? What do you want done? They don't care about nothing being done. They care about anarchy and pushing towards the revolution. They care about how many people they can turn to get their revolution, to get America to be communist, to get full control. By the life of me, I don't understand why the right conservatives they seem to understand it, but they're afraid to, I guess, for lack of a better term, call it out. These are communists. And how this woman went down this path for radicalization is the path that a lot of people in America are happening. They're starting to see these riots, these things, and they think this is about illegal immigration and human rights and the treatment of people. And it has nothing to do with that. And it's been highly documented at this point. It's no secret, it's not hard to find. People from Tim Pool to a bunch of independent journalists on TikTok to Louder or Crowder, they all have videos where they show how these protests and all these things are just engineered by these communist groups. Even the civil rights movement back in the days had its beginnings in some sort of communist movement. So in conclusion, it's time for people to wake up. It's time for people to see things for what they are. I know a lot of people just don't want to be involved. They don't want to be involved, but I'm not telling you being involved is to go out there and counter protest and get into fights with these people. It's time, first of all, on our side, to get more involved, to pick better candidates. Not these clowns like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that she was a cheerleader for 4 years and got nothing absolutely done. She increased her media profile, but this isn't about her. In your community, start calling things out. Pay attention to these communists teaching your children in school, indoctrinating them, turning them into this woman that lost her life over being involved in that nonsense. That could have been any of us family member. And I don't take any joy. I know a lot of people are making these subtle videos about drinking coffee and, well, I take no pleasure in that woman passing away. None. As a matter of fact, it's a tragedy. It's not like that guy woke up, the ICE officer woke up and says, I feel like killing somebody today. He woke up ready to do his job. And this thing's going to haunt him the rest of his life. And no telling what sort of mental stress and damage that's going to cause for him his whole life. Not to mention this poor woman that's never coming back and left young kids at home to who knows who's going to take care of them. So we have a duty to call these things out, to repress all these movements that cause harm and division in our community. People want to protest immigration enforcement. They're welcome to do that. They can protest all they want. But impeding federal agents, That's a whole nother level. You're not protesting. This is, as much as they like to call things an insurrection, this is an uprising. But I just thought I'd just share beg your pardon, these few thoughts with you, quick thoughts. Things are changing. Things are changing, and we don't want this to get to bad places. So, this next election coming up, I really implore you to go and vote. Vote for a sensible candidate. I'm not telling you a political party. Just vote for somebody who's for common sense. Not for trancing kids, not for communism, not for radical nonsense. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your viewership. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.